Can the products we buy, such as a hot chocolate drink, and the service we use affect the survival of rainforests? The EU thinks so. The new deforestation law requires businesses to prove that the manufacturing process and supply chains are not responsible for destruction of forests. But some companies complain about the red tape and costs involved, so the rules have been delayed. This week, eu-decoded untangles the controversy.
Rainforests are crucial for climate stability, especially in the tropics of South America, Africa and Asia. But in the last 3 decades, 420 million hectares have been destroyed, an area slightly larger than that of the EU. That land was used for extraction of materials and agriculture. With the new law, cattle, cocoa, coffee, palm oil, soybeans, wood, rubber, coal and paper will be affected. These products will only be sold on the EU market if they're not linked to land deforested after 2021.
Under the deforestation law, companies will have to monitor supply chains and some products may become more expensive. What do consumers think of this trade-off?
Me fijo en que sean productos sobre todo ecológicos, pero no tengo en cuenta la posterior deforestación o lo que provoca.
Sí, claro, tienes que tenerlo en cuenta. Yo entiendo que para una familia que sean muchos miembros es más complicado el tener en cuenta esas cosas, pero si puedes y siempre que esté a tu alcance, creo que deberíamos hacerlo. Sí.
Ez az ára annak, hogy aztán ne legyen olyan nagy a pusztítás, akkor igen, akkor megveszem.
Hát ez természetes. Figyeljünk a bolygóra, ezért elnéznék egy kis inflációt.
Igen, alapvetően ez egy jó irányvonal és támogatható, csak ez mindig azt okozza, hogy az alternatív termékeknek viszont sokkal magasabb lesz az áruk.
Grégoire Laurie has been covering this controversial law for Euronews and can give more details. The deforestation law was due to be implemented by member states already from December 30th. So why did the Commission recently ask to postpone it for 1 year?
There has been calls and worries from different parts growing, especially over the summer. So calls from member states, from third countries, from companies, operators, traders. They were highlighting either loopholes or practical details that were unanswered, and for some maybe geopolitical reasons.
The governments in the 27 EU countries agreed with this postponement, but then when the vote took place in the European Parliament on November 14th, the law was changed again. Who wanted those changes?
That was the EPP, which is a bit strange because the EPP had the rapporteur on the previous deregulation, so it means that the EPP has changed a bit its position. But it's not only the EPP, it's the EPP with the support of the far right. So it's a new kind of majority that took part on this text. The EPP said that the former text was too bureaucratic with too stringent rules.
And they got the votes with the help of the far right in this case, which also was kind of a provocation to the Greens and the Socialists that have been trying to build a consensus.
Indeed, and it's interesting to follow because it's a majority EPP centre-right with the far right that has decided to water down the text. And it is a different majority that had supported von der Leyen few weeks before. That was a majority with Renew, the Greens and the Social Democrats.
So what comes next in terms of negotiations?
Well, either the text goes through the usual institutional process, so the text has to be endorsed by the Council, representing the Member States, and by the Parliament. However, some parties within the Parliament, like the Social Democrats or the Greens, are calling the Commission to withdraw its proposal to postpone the implementation. And the left also is asking the vote to be redone because there were technical issues during the vote.
Once the law comes into force, both producers and import-export companies must put in place a monitoring system. Member states will make inspections, and fines worth up to 4% of a company's turnover could be imposed. The European Commission will also define countries as having a low, standard or high risk of deforestation. But the European Parliament has voted to add a new no-risk category that would exempt countries' enforcement.
With us at the European Parliament is Anna Cavazzini, Chair of the Committee on Internal Market and Consumer Protection. So the deforestation law is another part of the Green Deal that has become highly politicized and somehow put on ice. Is the credibility of the European Union as a decision maker at stake here?
Yes, I find highly problematic what happened because indeed we're passing laws, companies are getting prepared for it, citizens are getting prepared for it, and then all of a sudden we say, yeah, we want to weaken the law again, or we want to postpone the law again. And I think this creates more chaos and indeed threatens the EU as a credible decision maker.
Some industry sectors are highly critical of it, while others want a law as soon as possible. How do we explain this?
There is a lot of companies who also already in the past committed to zero deforestation because they know that it's really, really difficult if we destroy our whole biodiversity. If the EU, with our imports, we also continue destroying forests in the world. But there is also lobby pressures. There is companies who don't want to change or who say, okay, every change I have to do in my company policy is new bureaucracy. Of course, at the beginning, there is new bureaucracy. You have to introduce new measures. But I think after a year, when you really introduce new mechanisms, it will be much easier. And then you also have a clear supply chain, and then you can easily obey to the law, comply with the law.
The USA, Brazil, and Indonesia criticized the law, while other markets hope to beneficiate. How important are the third country to this law?
Of course, we don't know what happens to Trump, but the current US government was never against the law. They just wanted the postponement. If you speak to different stakeholders in Brazil, you know, I'm a lot in contact with the environmental NGOs, with indigenous communities, those who really protect the forest, and they like the law. They find it really, really important. If you talk to the agri industry, of course, in Brazil, they are not so happy about the law. So you also have to specify a little bit whom you talk to. But of course, it's important to reach out to third countries. It's important to not make laws against them, but include them in the legislation, in the lawmaking process. And I think this we have to probably do better next time.
Our consumption in Europe is said to contributing 10% to global deforestation. In turn, this has been linked to climate change, with natural disasters becoming increasingly more common everywhere. At what pace should we move forward to reverse the situation? And are we willing to pay the price? I'll be back next week for more EU Decoding.